Welcome to In Depth with Academia. I'm Richard Price, CEO of academia.edu, and I'm thrilled you could join me today as we take a deep dive into a fresh perspective on one of those words that pops up everywhere in, mindfulness and psychology circles, equanimity. Today I'll be presenting, not endorsing, just presenting the fascinating ideas in a recent paper by Michael Ubel called Equanimity Is Not Stillness. It is a mobility of the mind. So, have you ever heard someone say you should cultivate equanimity? Or maybe you've read about it as being like a mountain, totally unshakable, peaceful, immovable. I think most of us kind of default to picturing equanimity as, stoically sitting there, calm and collected, almost like you're above the whole messy world. But Ubel asks, is that really what equanimity is? Or could it be something a bit more lively, more dynamic? Why does this matter? Well, if you think of equanimity as a kind of emotional deadness or suppression of feeling, that it doesn't really sound like a realistic or even a healthy goal, does it? So let's get into it, because this might just shift the way you think about how to relate to the world. So what is the main question driving Ubel's paper? It's pretty bold. He challenges that classic idea of equanimity as inner stillness or emotional hardness. Instead, he argues that true equanimity is about mobility, a flowing, playful flexibility of the mind. It's not about shutting out strong feelings or, pretending you never have preferences. It's about moving through experiences, taking up new perspectives, even dancing with them, not just sitting like a mountain. Okay, let me break down some of the key arguments Ubel makes. Remember, I'm presenting these ideas as neutrally as possible. I'm not saying they're the truth with a capital T, but they are interesting to consider. So, first big idea, equanimity isn't a state of non-reactivity like a robot, but a continual process of rebalancing and playful openness. Ubel draws from both Western and Eastern philosophies, and he brings up this image from Taoist writers. A baby staring at the world, not out of determination, but just out of total openness and fluidity. Isn't that a fresh way of picturing it? Instead of trying to be impermeable, you're just relating to things as they happen. There's also this super interesting distinction he draws between equanimity and other mindfulness qualities like letting go or non-judging. He argues that equanimity isn't about subtracting or suppressing anything, it's additive. You're supplementing your mental orientation by picking up multiple perspectives, not trying to whittle your feelings down to zero. And then there's an example in the paper, a story about Ram Dass and his guru Neem Karoli Baba. Ram Dass gets told he's not imperfect, not because his flaws disappear, but because in the wide view of things, focusing in too tightly on any one aspect just misses the fullness. Ubel suggests that equanimity is this capacity to step back, keep moving, keep hovering over different perspectives. He calls that multi-perspectivism. So, what does this mean, for us in daily life? Ubel says that embracing equanimity as mobility lets you meet the world with flexibility. You're not avoiding, you're not stuck in a rut, you're not blindly accepting everything either. You're able to notice both the good and the bad, the disturbing and the tranquil. It opens up a kind of playfulness, a freedom to respond. He gives an example from his clinical work with veterans experiencing PTSD. For some of these folks, attentiveness to threats becomes narrowly focused, like a spotlight always on edge. By introducing a more floodlight consciousness, expanding what gets your attention, Ubel says equanimity allows for a softer, more spacious kind of awareness. It doesn't replace or erase alertness, but just balances it with more openness, more flexibility. There's also this bit about playfulness. I thought this was curious. Playing isn't about reaching a goal. It's just about experiencing, moving, reacting, and sometimes not reacting, right? Ubel thinks equanimity is like surfing. It's about riding the wave, not conquering it. There's a kind of joy in not being locked into one way of seeing or responding. And here's where I go off on a little tangent. Bear with me. I was thinking, what would this look like in, say, a business meeting? Imagine if, instead of locking into one opinion, people just moved fluidly, surfed the topic, balanced different views. Maybe every meeting would be more productive, or maybe breakfast would devolve into endless debates over oat milk. Who knows? Anyway, I want to emphasize these are arguments and examples presented by Michael Ubel. They're not dogma. Academic research is about insights, not universal truths. Take what's resonant, reflect, and see if anything here feels useful. So, to sum up, Ubel's paper suggests equanimity is a dynamic, flexible way of relating to experience. Not stillness, not detachment, but a lively mobility of the mind. Next time you think about staying calm, maybe try imagining it as moving with, rather than resisting, the world around you. Thanks so much for joining me today on In Depth with Academia. I hope you found this episode thought-provoking, maybe even a little freeing. And remember, every academic paper is just one possible window, never the whole view. See you next time.